Thanks so much for being here again. And tonight, our theme for July is freedom, a world that works for all. And all of the talks have been about freedom of one sort or another. And as I mentioned last week when I did my talk series for this 5 weeks of Wednesday nights, I had used spiritual qualities from Thomas Trauer's work. And so the first talk was about life, and the second one last week was about light. This one is about love. Next week is peace, and then we'll end the month on Wednesday night with freedom to live in joy. So tonight we're doing freedom to love. Now, how do you feel about that word called love? How does love make you feel? Anybody? Just tell me what comes to mind as soon as I say love.
Good.
Joy. Good. Yeah. Warm. Secure. Okay. Peace. Hearts and flowers and special cards. Eyelashes, yes. You remembered from the little kids in February. Yeah, I did a talk in February, and one of the analogies I used in that talk was, it was actually, I gave quotes of what little children said, what their definition of love was. And one of the little girls who was 3 or 4 or 5 said that it was when your eyelashes go up and down, and the stars fly out of your eyes. And so at that point I said, now isn't that an image of Source, God, Spirit, all that is? Having all those eyelashes going up and down while all the stars are being created, And that was just a wonderful analogy. I could see that picture so well. So yeah, love is all of those things. And that's human personal love that we're talking about there. That warmth and yummy stuff. And then there's another side to love that sometimes is disappointing, and it lets us down, and we don't feel so good about it. And those parts of love that are not so comfortable because we have human personality expectations are the things that create barriers within us to keep us from loving ourselves, because we've been told that we're unlovable maybe in many different ways and gotten that message. Or we've built barriers so that people can't hurt us. If we don't let them love us, they can't hurt us. And it's just that easy. Now, Dr. Ernest Holmes defines love, because I love to know what words mean. Clinton, you know that. We did that in class today. His definition is that love is the self-givingness of spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. In other words, divine love is the spirit forever imparting its life to us, the complete givingness of spirit. The dictionary, if we look at Merriam-Webster or Wikipedia, love encompasses a range of strong and positive emotional and mental states, from the most sublime virtue or good habit, the deepest interpersonal affection, to the simplest pleasure. And an example of this range of meanings is that the love of a mother differs from the love of a spouse, which differs from the love of a food. But most commonly, love refers to a feeling of strong attraction. It also refers to emotional attachment. Most of that depends on human emotion and personality. And of course, I have to have definitions from the kids, so here we go. And one of the kids said, love is when a girl puts on perfume and a boy puts on cologne and they go out and smell each other. That's love. And then Earl, who is sick, said, love is when you go out to eat and you give somebody most of your French fries and you don't even ask for any of theirs back. That's such a simple idea, isn't it? I mean, isn't that just the givingness of love right there in its innocence? So, all of the experiences that we've had at various stages of love and being loved have had an impact and an effect on us over the time that we've had those experiences. And I love the statement by Rumi that says, our task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek for all the barriers within ourselves we have built against it. When we observe ourselves and others through the eyes of love, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. But we look at everyone through the eyes of personality love, with judgment and an idea and a preset condition about how one should love us, how we should love others, and then if they don't match our expectations, we get icky about it. You know what I mean by icky. Well, you didn't do that, and I did. I know that nobody in here does that, but just saying, you know. But tonight what I want to talk about is divine love, because in divine love there is absolute freedom. The love of Spirit is unfailing, ever present, and it exists within us in a place that has never been touched, broken, harmed, or disturbed by any other being. It's impossible. It can never be extinguished. It exists within us as a candle flame that is always available to us. When we enter into spiritual communion with the divine, we can know that love so deeply within us, so incredibly real to us, that we sense the beauty, the life, the joy, the truth of our being and God, Spirit, whatever you want to call it, and see it in everyone else. And that's where unconditional love comes in. That kind of love is truly unconditional. And it's the highest motive we can achieve in loving ourselves. Can you love yourself unconditionally? Do you look in the mirror in the morning and say, oh, you beautiful creature, I love you? I don't know about you, but there are days when I'm just not up to that. You know, I might go, oh, hi. Here we are again. Here we are again. You know? I might get that far, but I don't just get up out of bed and go, oh, you beautiful creature, I love you today. I usually have to have a cup of tea before I get there. And you know, that's really humorous, but truly, if we are unable to love ourselves fully, and we find barriers within ourselves that we can't, and that we don't, and reasons why, and those reasons are amplified by people around us and thoughts that we continue to have, if we are unable to see ourselves in the divine love that Spirit looks at us with, then it's really pretty impossible to have that same lens of unconditional divine love in our eyes when we look at others, because we look with the same conditions that we hold in criticality in ourselves. We may not even know we're doing it. You know, I don't set out to say, well, you look weird today, I don't think I can love you, or I'm not going to pass a person who's homeless on the street and say, unlovable, can't go there. So we could do that, though, because we don't see clearly through the lens of the divine. And that's the kind of lens I'm talking about now, and the kind that we're going to discuss in just a minute. I'm actually going to give you ways to get there, too. That's the best part. I want to share with you this statement. Compassion is the deep understanding of the suffering of another and the encompassing and immersing the other in love. The immersing of the other in love. If we were to consider that encompassing and immersing the other in love, what would that feel like? What would it feel like to you to receive that kind of encompassing and immersing in love from another being on the planet? That divine love, not the personality love that says, oh, I love you because you're so beautiful, and I love you because you have money, and I love you because you'll love me forever. I'm talking about the divine internal essence of love that is so sweet and pure and tender in our hearts. That innocent love of putting on perfume and cologne and going out and smelling each other. That love. Okay. So, I promised you ways that we can love. I'm going to give them to you. Ready? This is very exciting. It's so exciting, I have to have a drink. So, I found this little thing about 10 ways to love, and I found it to be an incredibly powerful exercise. And I'm just going to offer you thoughts here for you to contemplate, to ponder. So the first way to love, and see if this is a way that you love, if this is a way that you have been loved by another that you've received, and understand that these 10 ways are the way that Spirit loves us, and see how that fits for you. So the first one, the first way to love, is to listen without interrupting. Have you ever been listened to so intensely and nobody interrupted you, and they were on every word, just knowing so attentively that you were right there, they were right there with you? Was that not a miraculous feeling? Or how often do you really listen with ears of love? Are you always thinking about what you're going to say before they're even done talking so that you have the right answer? Are you capable? Are you open to listening with ears of love? God hears us with ears of love. That's the divine ears. I only hear love. That's all I know. Number 2, can you speak without accusing? Have you had a conversation with someone where you could just speak your mind and they were like, oh, interesting, yes, I hear you? Or have you had the conversation with someone where they started, oh, that's wrong, you're off, you're crazy, what do you mean you're talking about? I don't like what you're saying. Can you speak or respond to another without accusing or demeaning their thought process? Can you speak the language of love without accusing, the language of acceptance of love? Number 3, give without sparing. Love is abundant. It's an endless flow from the universe. It's a giant river, a giant ocean of love. We live in oceans of love. Are you miserly with your love? Do you only give it under certain extenuating circumstances? Or do you just give abundantly? And do you give unsparingly of your time, your talent, your treasure? Because those are all the methods of translating love that we have into energy here on this planet. God never holds back anything from us. You know, it's just there whenever we need it, whenever we want it, and whenever we believe that we can receive it. And that's the key to that. So if you can't give without sparing, maybe there's a place in you that's not sure that you're capable of receiving that kind of endless giving. Number 4, can you answer someone without arguing? Is it possible to just simply respond to an answer without arguing your position and staking a claim about why you're right? You know, there's an old adage, I'd rather be happy than right. Well, when we come back and reply with argument, sometimes, as Stephen says, Reverend Stephen says, we're arguing for our limitations. When you answer with an argument, are you arguing for your limitation in that relationship? Are you arguing with God because you don't think it's right? Just something to think about. Number 5, we're halfway there. Share without pretending. Now that's interesting. When Spirit shares all the good in this world with us, there's no pretense, it's just here. It's a gift of life that we get to enjoy. But do you share in a genuine way? Do you share in a genuine way and really, really want to share with another or others? Or you just pretend and do it to accommodate someone, just to get them to shut up even, maybe. Yes, I'll share with you. Here, take my soda, but go away. And that's a simple analogy, but how many times do we do that? Number 6, can you enjoy without complaint? Can you enjoy any experience that you have agreed to that may not be exactly what you would have chosen, but you agreed to it? Can you enjoy that without complaint? Or do you go out to dinner and say, well, I thought we were going to go to the French restaurant, but you had to pick Mexican, and now here I am, and I don't like it, and, well, I'll find something, Harold, I'll find something. Do you think that Spirit looks down on us and says, look at those people, I give them everything, they're enjoying, I'm enjoying watching them, but boy, do they just keep kvetching around about it all. I don't think so. That's not divine love. Number 7, we're getting there. Can you promise without forgetting? Do you make promises and keep them to yourself and others? If you have a little promise that you've made and you have a little problem keeping that promise, sometimes things just get in the way. But sometimes we are individuals who make promises all the time, say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take care of it, don't worry, baby, I've got it, no problem, and then we forget perpetually. You might ask yourself, why are you making a promise if you're not going to keep it? It's kind of an exercise in futility, I think. And certainly, Spirit has kept promises to each of us, to be that divine light, to be that divine source always burning within us, to allow us free will choice at every turn to make a new decision about how we want to live our life. Keeping that promise and not forgetting. Number 8. Ooh, and this one is a big one because I really used to like to do this. Can you forgive without punishing? Well, I used to have a hard time with that. I could forgive, but then I was going to make sure that they were miserable for at least 6 weeks after that. And every time the situation came up, yes, darling, I forgive you, but remember, you were really a blah, blah, blah. So here's the biggest thing with the forgiveness, is that we have to be able to forgive ourselves first. And can you forgive yourself without punishing yourself? Can you forgive yourself for a perceived wrongdoing, a funky decision that you made? Can you do that, or are you still beating the drum of what you did bad? First, move into the place of forgiveness for yourself, and then you can work on forgiving others. Now, we can say that it's easier to forgive others than to forgive ourselves. If it doesn't start at home, the car never leaves the garage. Or maybe you're one of those kind of folks that just has to hang on to an eye for an eye theory that's like way far in ancient history. We must take an eye for an eye. Just something to think about. Here come the big guns, 9 and 10, okay? So number 9 is trust without wavering. Can you love with divine love so completely that you never waver? Can you see that same divine love essence in another person? Can you see that same divine love essence in you and trust you to be a being of love, to be a being of light, to be a being of good in the world? Can you trust yourself to do that? When we look through the eyes of the divine, it's a whole lot easier. Do you hold on to your suspicious nature just because of old wounds? Well, so-and-so did that, so I'm pretty sure this one's going to do it too. And then we just set ourselves up, and there's more of those barriers that prevent us from loving ourselves and each other more fully. Sometimes we hold on to those things because we think they're going to keep us safe so that we won't get hurt again. But what we're really kind of doing is shooting ourselves in the foot. We just go, I don't trust, I can't, I want to make sure I don't get hurt. Boom, right in the foot. Because then we can't ever commit to our own self-love or to the love of another being. And number 10, the big finale. Pray without ceasing. Now, when we pray without ceasing, every word is a prayer. Every word. Are your words filled with divine love for yourself? Are your words filled with divine love for others? You only see through the pinhole of not so good, not so good, maybe okay. I don't know, that one looks a little weird. Or do you see through divine love, and every word is a prayer of love to the life within you and the life that's all around you? I just really like these thoughts about the ways to love, and I know that I've got a few that I can continue to improve upon. I encourage all of us to consider the infinite possibilities of enriching our lives through living the divine love that is within each of us, in getting in touch with that through daily communion, in seeing the divine love in every other creation. Last 2 weeks, I've talked about us being global citizens. And what does that mean in terms of love? It means that every creation in this globe, all around the world, is a divine expression. And as global citizens, I see some of those citizens with a lot of unloving behaviors. So do I want to see through an eye of criticality? Do I want to see through an eye of blame and shame and this isn't okay? Or do I want to look through a divine lens and identify that love in every person that's on this planet? Love is the foundation of a world that works for all. And we talk about a world that works for all in our global vision. So what happens, how about if we just decide we're going to return to our teaching and know that true unconditional love is the ability to make conscious choices to be more loving? It's not so much if we do it every minute of the day, it's that we have an awareness when we aren't. We can say, oh wait, I just said something that was not really in keeping with divine love within me that I know that I am, that I know that I exist in. We can say in that moment of awareness, oops, erase that one. I want to replace that with, I know that every being has divine love within them. True loving, communing with the divine every day, keeps us in alignment with that. True loving is knowing the truth of our being and knowing the truth of every other person and their being. And true loving is affirming those same truths of love for others around the globe, knowing that divine love exists within every being everywhere. I encourage us to take time for visualization of that divine essence in each person, all creation, every essence of life around the planet. A world that works for all, where all creation is filled and allowed to blossom in that divine essence of love that's within them, within it, within whatever the creative thing might be, animal, plant, mineral, how we take care of our planet. To know that everyone is a divine expression, a beloved expression of that divine love, and to know that every day, and to bask in the warmth and acceptance of that love as we move through our daily business and the little things that happen in our lives and the big ones. And so now, what I'd like to do, as we've done every week, is to celebrate the love in every faith teaching around the globe. Paula, if you'll help me out here. I have my fire expert. Ralph, if you want to give us a little lights down, please. So as we light these candles, I would like to invite you to contemplate the celebration of divine love for all faiths, all people, all creation, as we light these candles. We light these candles to promote the universal consciousness of all life, which acknowledges all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings that emanate from one great universal love, which I will call spirit for right now. So we light a candle for the Tao, honoring the universal harmony and the natural way. We light a candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous people, the way of primal spirituality. We light a candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light a candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light a candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light a candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light a candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling of love. We light a candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the paths of unity and peace. We light a candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light a candle for all religions unnamed and those who are yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, and for the space that we are holding for them at this center. And we light a candle to remind us of that infinite flicker of divine love that exists in the very heart of every being and all creation around this world throughout the entire universe. So now, if you please join me, let us take just a minute of silence to move into that place of divine love within each of us as we open our hearts to receive and to send that divine love and allow it to spread from within each of us throughout this center, across the continent, and around the globe as we see a world that is filled with the divine love in and for all. And so I just invite you to return easily and effortlessly with your heart and soul filled to the overflowing love of the divine. Just savoring that delicious divine love. that exists within and that we radiate out to the world as we walk through it, touching everyone that we meet with that divine essence of love that is the truth of our being. And so I'm going to leave you with this thought tonight as we close, that you are so loved by the divine. You are precious beings of love. And the love of Spirit is infinite. It expresses in, through, and as each one of you all the time. Open to it, turn to it, and share it freely. And I'd like to close with this thought from Teilhard de Chardin, who was a wonderful, amazing Jesuit priest and a philosopher. And he said, someday, after we have mastered the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, we will harness for God the energies of love. And then, for the second time in the history of the world, man will have discovered fire. And so it is. Thank you. And so let's just do our prayer, because that's what we do after that. And so let me just give us a prayer here to follow that message. So knowing, as we take another breath, just to breathe in all the good that is in, through, as, and around us, that loving Spirit, that presence of the divine. I speak this word of love now, knowing that divine love is everywhere, ever present, infinite, indivisible, inseparable, and it exists in, through, and all creation. It's in me, it's in you, it's in everyone here within the reach of my voice and beyond the reach of my voice. And for everyone who has cried out seeking love, I speak a word, knowing that their cries have been answered, for a loving Spirit delivers all to those who ask. And in this moment, in this very moment, in this space and time, I am so grateful to know the truth of every creation on this planet, before, above, beyond, below, knowing that everything has that same divine essence of love in it. And I know that as we leave tonight, we share that love freely, easily, and effortlessly with everyone we meet, knowing that in that one instant that we have a flicker of love flame that is illuminated in us, we have the power and the presence of love fully accessible to us to change the entire world and create a world that works for all. And I give thanks for this, and I release it into the law that always says yes, knowing it is already done, and so it is. Thank you.